Okay, let's dive right into this because it is a wild one. Picture this, right? It's a gorgeous sunny day down on a Florida beach. This was back in 2012. Families are swimming, waves are crashing. You know the vibe. It feels like your perfectly normal day at the coast. But what happened on that specific beach ended up blowing up and making national headlines. And here's the crazy part. It wasn't just because of some daring split-second rescue. No, it was because of the absolutely shocking price one young guy had to pay for literally just being a hero. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we're going to look at the true cost of saving a life.
Would you break a rule to save a life? I mean, it sounds like an absolute no-brainer, doesn't it? Of course you would. But what if? What if breaking that rule meant losing your livelihood right there on the spot? What if doing the undeniably right thing, the fundamentally human thing, was a direct violation of the strict corporate policy you were hired to follow? We're going to unpack this ultimate moral dilemma today, and it all starts with one specific lifeguard who was unexpectedly forced to make exactly that choice.
Section 1. The Hard Choice. A 2012 Florida incident.
So, meet Thomas Lopez. In 2012, this 21-year-old kid is working as a professional lifeguard, keeping a watchful eye on his stretch of the Florida coastline. It's just an ordinary shift until suddenly, frantic beachgoers start warning him about an active drowning. But here is the massive catch. The man was 1,500 feet away. To put that into perspective, that is roughly 5 whole football fields entirely outside of Thomas's designated patrol zone. But Thomas? Actually, he didn't even overthink it. He didn't hesitate for a single second. He jumps down from his tower and just sprints. He runs as fast as he physically can, heart pounding across the sand for 1,500 feet. By the time he actually gets there, bystanders had just managed to pull the guy out of the water, and Thomas instantly jumps into action, providing absolutely critical first aid until the emergency medical teams arrive. Ultimately, he successfully helped save a man's life.
Section 2. The Rescue and the Price. Fired for heroism.
Now, you're probably thinking this is the part of the story where Thomas gets, a shiny medal, the key to the city, or a massive bonus for acting so fast. But the reality is going to completely blindside you. Just hours after receiving the warning, sprinting all the way down that beach, and successfully saving a human life, he was fired on the exact same day. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. Instead of praising him, management actually pulled Thomas aside and immediately terminated his employment.
So why on earth did this happen? Well, we're basically looking at two completely conflicting priorities here. From a strict corporate and legal standpoint, the operating company argued that by leaving his assigned post, Thomas created a huge liability. Their rules explicitly dictated that a lifeguard absolutely must stay in their designated zone for safety reasons. So abandoning his post technically left the people in his specific area exposed to danger. But on the flip side, contrast that with the lifeguard's human reality. An active, immediate drowning emergency was happening right then and there. A man was dying. In that split second, a theoretical risk clashed directly with a very real, immediate danger just down the beach.
Section 3. Public Outrage. A nationwide backlash.
As you can probably guess, the story did not stay quiet for long. It spread like wildfire, going absolutely viral across the United States and triggering a massive wave of intense backlash. People were just furious. They literally couldn't believe a company would punish a young guy for doing the most fundamentally good thing a person can do. The entire country was loudly asking one simple, completely baffling rhetorical question. Is a lifeguard's primary job not to save lives? I mean, people were quick to point out the sheer absurdity of the whole shebang. The entire purpose of hiring a lifeguard is to prevent people from drowning, right? So to fire that exact same person for successfully preventing a drowning just because he was technically standing outside some invisible boundary on the sand, it just seemed completely illogical.
Well, the public pressure quickly became immense. Phones were ringing off the hook, the media was absolutely everywhere, and the operating company realized pretty fast that they had made a colossal mistake. So they hit the brakes and initiated a rapid backtrack. First off, they publicly admitted that their decision to fire Thomas was just plain wrong. Second, they formally reached out and offered Thomas his job back. And third, they promised to completely review their safety policies to make sure something like this wouldn't ever happen again. It really seemed like a victory, right? The hero was going to get his job back, case closed.
But here is the incredible twist. Thomas Lopez flat out refused the offer. He literally just said, "No, thank you." Despite the public apology and the open invitation to return to his old post, Thomas turned the whole thing down. He stated very clearly that he felt absolutely zero regrets about his decision to run down that beach. He just didn't want to work for an organization that would even temporarily put a strict corporate policy above a dying man's life.
He absolutely stood his ground.
Section 4. Rules versus human life. The ultimate dilemma.
So this story really forces us to zoom out a bit, right? To look at the systems we operate within every single day. What actually happens when strict, rigid rules clash with fundamental human morality? Obviously, we build these rules to keep society safe, but sometimes they become so rigid they kind of miss the point entirely. And Thomas, he answered that dilemma perfectly. He stated that he, quote, preferred a human life over lines drawn in the sand, end quote. He recognized that the boundary of his patrol zone was literally just that, an imaginary line on a beach. If he had blindly respected that invisible line, a real, living, breathing person would have died. Thomas made it abundantly clear that if he could go back in time, he would make the exact same choice all over again. No questions asked.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with a simple, undeniable truth. Jobs are replaceable, lives are not. Look, we all have rules to follow, right? In our careers, in our schools, just in our daily routines. But we also have a moral compass. Thomas Lopez showed us that true integrity means knowing exactly when a rule needs to be broken. So, the next time you're faced with a rigid policy that directly contradicts your basic human empathy, which will you choose? The rulebook or the human